Welcome to the TEK2day podcast powered by CEORater. Your host, John Maeda. I think we are on episode 352. We just published episode 351. We kind of walked you through our tool where we critiqued Boeing CEO David Calhoun, who scored a perfect 0, which is not a good thing, given that our CR scores scale from 0 to 100, 100 being best. So CEORater, we're not for everybody, right? So we have our crowdsourced platform, then we have our consulting services where we drill down on a particular CEO, right? We do diligence on a CEO and sell that diligence as a packaged offering, as sort of a one-off offering. And hopefully someday in the not too distant future, we could build more of that diligence workflow into the tool, so that'll be more of a self-service purchase as opposed to what today is a purely consulting effort. So what we do there is we drill down on a particular CEO, his or her track record versus guidance, his or her ability to drive innovation in an organization. And it's more than just looking at product development spend as a percentage of revenue, right? It's how many new products did you successfully launch, meaning how many new products did you launch that gain traction and that are growing revenue. You know, I was just having this conversation the other day with a friend who's offering, who's invested in a company that we're looking at potentially partnering with, and I don't want to give too much detail, but this company's offering is an enterprise offering, and it's clear that it needs to be quote-unquote consumerized. And if you look at the management team of this particular company, their entire experience is around enterprise software. And so some of the questions that would be obvious to you or I if you're a user of mobile applications, and if you've ever created content on your phone and published content to the world through the phone, it would seem obvious to you or I, but would not seem obvious to an executive that has spent their entire life, 30 years in enterprise software. That's a transition that every enterprise software company has to make. I thought that was obvious back in, when was the iPhone launched? 04, 07? When smartphones started to really gain traction, particularly with the iPhone, because the iPhone was my first recollection of consumer technology being dragged into the enterprise and IT staffs having to change their behavior. So it used to be, when I first started out as an investor on the buy side with Putnam, and then as a banker on the sell side with Needham and Company, it used to be that you would be issued a work issued laptop and a phone. And what happened was the phone, which at that time was a BlackBerry phone, as that fell out of favor, as Apple rolled out the iPhone, and this was when I was at Needham now, myself and others started to bring our iPhones to work. And we would hand them to the IT staff and said, I'm done using the BlackBerry. This clunky piece of hardware that doesn't have a smart interface. I want to use my iPhone. So add whatever software you need to add to the iPhone to make it compliant. But this is what I want to use. And that's now kind of become standard for most companies. So that's what I call the consumerization of technology. And that has to happen with every enterprise software offering. It's got to be easy, whatever the offering may be. And certainly for the modules that are most frequently used, they've got to be easily used on the phone, which is the device of choice today for 99.9% of all working professionals. And so, we drill down on those type of questions. Is the management team, the C-level leadership, the CEO, the COO, the chief product officer, the chief development officer, the chief engineer, the chief architect, are they qualified to lead companies through that type of change if that's what needs to happen at a particular company? Right? So we look at not just the financial metrics, but if it's a technology company that we're evaluating at CEORater, what are the technology chops of the executive management team, right? So it's not enough to just say the team has 10, 20, 30 years experience in technology, in enterprise software. What's their expertise around what needs to be done for company X? Do they have experience in that area? If not, have they brought people into the organization who have experience in that area? Is the executive team focused on that which needs to be focused upon? Right. So if a company's losing share in a particular space, what are they doing about it? Who in the organization is being held accountable for it? We look at that type of thing. What's a company's appetite for M&A? We look at that. Sometimes when a company needs to catch up and close the competitive gap from a product standpoint, oftentimes the best way to do that is not only through organic product development, but by complementing that organic product development effort with acquisitions. And is the management team, is the CEO comfortable with executing an acquisition? Particularly if they haven't exercised that muscle in the past. Are they willing to develop some new muscle tissue, some new core competencies, and go out and find a solution for closing that competitive gap, particularly if that solution is M&A, particularly if they haven't done M&A in the past? So another way to say that is a CEO, as a C-level management team, what's their level of intellectual curiosity? Are they willing to learn, even if they're in their mid-50s or early 60s? Or are they just done learning and only doing what they've always done? Right, that's one of the attributes we look at across our matrix of 40-plus attributes for evaluating CEOs. These are all things we've talked about in the past. Right, and so if you want to drill down on these type of issues, you're an institutional investor, whether you're a public company investor, a private equity firm, late-stage venture, we can help you there. We have expertise there. Because these are areas I've thought about and worked on my entire life in the capital markets. I don't know of anybody else that's doing it. If you're the type of investor, what I call closet index funds, where you just, whatever your benchmark is, and you're slightly overweight here, slightly underweight there. If you're a public company investor, my old shop at Putnam was a lot like that, where most of the PMs, they didn't know what the hell the companies did that were in their various funds, in various sleeves. Even for the top holdings, they didn't have an intimate understanding of what those companies did for a living. They didn't give much thought to who the CEOs were. I mean, those are the guys that push back on me that say, hey, it doesn't matter who runs a large company. The example I always give about Microsoft, just look at Microsoft during Steve Ballmer's tenure and then post-Ballmer under Satya Nadella. Completely different approach under Nadella, completely changed the company, the fabric of the company, and it speaks for itself in the results, the financial results, the product results, the look and feel of the products, how they work with competitors. They actually collaborate with competitors today, and they've made that work. So it always matters who the CEO is. So if you're the type of investor that cares about that stuff, who's running the companies that I own, then we can work with you. If you don't, if it's not a priority, then you're probably not a good fit for us. And I'd like to believe that those cases are few and far between, and that most investors actually do care about who's leading the companies that they have invested in. That's all for now. See you all next time.